So, looking at dividing fractions. So this is very similar to multiplying fractions, but we have 3 extra steps before we can do the multiplying part. And the shorthand way of thinking about it is keep, change, flip. And that means we're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change the operation from dividing to multiplying. And then we're going to flip the second fraction, and that's called finding the reciprocal. So an upside down fraction or the inverse of a fraction is called the reciprocal. And then once we've done that, we're going to multiply the tops and the bottoms, just like we did with our multiplying fractions, and simplify where possible. So the first one we've got here is 4/5 divided by 5/6. So let's follow the method. Keep the first fraction, so we're going to keep the 4/5. We're going to change the dividing sign to a multiplying sign, and then we're going to flip the second fraction upside down. And now we're going to draw our fraction line. We're going to multiply the tops together. We're going to multiply the bottoms together. And once you get used to it, you can miss that step out. And 4 times 6 is 24, and 5 times 5 is 25. There is no common factor of 24 and 25, so 4/5 divided by 5/6 is 24 25ths in its simplest form. Let's look at another one. We're going to find 5/14 divided by 6/7. So we're going to keep the first fraction, so that's 5/14. We're going to change the operation from divide to multiply, so we're going to write a multiplication sign. We're going to flip the second fraction, so we're going to find the reciprocal, so the reciprocal of 6/7 is 7/6. And now we're going to multiply. So we've got 5 multiplied by 7 and 14 multiplied by 6. Now again, you can multiply 5 by 7 and get 35, and you can multiply 14 by 6 and get 84, and then simplify it. But I can see there that I've got two numbers with a common factor of 7 on my numerator and my denominator. So I'm going to simplify now to make my calculations easier. So there is 1 7 in 7, and there are 2 7s in 14. So now I can do 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 times 6 is 12. There is no common factor between 5 and 12, so in its simplest form, 5/14 divided by 6/7 is 5/12. Now what about dividing mixed fractions? It's exactly the same process of dividing fractions, but you cannot divide a mixed fraction. You have to change it to an improper fraction first. Once you've changed that mixed fraction to an improper fraction, then it's just keep the first fraction, change the operation from divide to multiply, flip the second fraction, and then multiply the tops and bottoms and simplify where possible. So let's look at this one. 1 and 2/7 divided by 3.5. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change it into a mixed fraction. No, from a mixed fraction to an improper fraction, sorry. So we're looking at the denominator of the first one. It's 7. 7 multiplied by 1 is 7, and add on 2 is 9. So we're going to get 9/7. We're going to keep that divide by sign just now because we're going to do the changing from mixed fraction to improper fraction as the first step. We don't want to try and do too many things at once or we'll make mistakes. So the second fraction has a denominator of 2. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. So we have 7/2. Now we're going to do our dividing process. Keep the first fraction, so that's 9/7. We're going to change the operation from divide to multiply, and then we're going to flip the second fraction, and that's going to become 2/7. Then we're going to draw our fraction line. We're going to multiply the tops together. We're going to multiply the bottoms together. And then we're going to work out what 9 times 2 is, and that's 18. 7 times 7 gives me 49. 18 and 49 are not on the same times table. They don't have any common factor. It is a proper fraction. It's not an improper fraction, so we don't need to do any changing back. So that is the final answer. So for the final example, we're going to find 3 3/4 divided by 1 1/8. So step 1, we're going to change those mixed fractions to improper fractions. So the denominator of my first fraction is 4, and we're doing 4 multiplied by the whole number, that's 12, and 12 plus 3 gives me 15. So I have 15/4, and then I'm going to divide that by, and I've got 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9, so I have 9/8. Now I'm going to keep the first fraction, so that's my 15/4. I'm going to change the operation from divide to multiply, and then I'm going to flip the second fraction. So the reciprocal of 9/8 is 8/9. Now I'm going to write my 15 multiplied by 8 on my numerator, and I'm going to write my 4 times 9 on my denominator. Now I'm going to look and see if I've got any common factors. So I know that 9 and 15 both have a common factor of 3. So I'm going to simplify that fraction. So there are 5 3's in 15, and there are 3 3's in 9. I know that 4 and 8 are both on my 4 times table. So there is 1 4 in 4, and there are 2 4's in 8. And now I can multiply the tops together. So 5 times 2 is 10, and 1 times 3 is 3. Now this time I've got an improper fraction, and I want to change it back into a mixed fraction. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to write my 10 under my bus stop and my 3 outside. There are no 3's in 1, carry the 1. There are 3 3's, make 9 in 10 with a remainder of 1. And so my final answer is going to be 3 1/3.